A prominent lawyer in the US will spend the rest of life in jail after he was found guilty of shooting dead his wife and son at their mansion in 2021. Prosecutors said Alex Murdaugh committed the killing in South Carolina to distract attention from financial crimes. He was found guilty overnight, and in the past hour or so, he's been sentenced.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, I sentence you to the State Department of Corrections on each of the murder indictments in the murder of your wife, Maggie Murdaugh. I sentence you for a term of the rest of your natural life. For the murder of Paul Murdaugh, whom you probably loved so much, I sentence you to prison for murdering him for the rest of your natural life. Those sentences will run consecutive. Under the statute involving possession of a weapon during a violent crime, there is no sentence where a life sentence is imposed on other indictments. That is the sentence of the court, and you are remanded to the State Department of Corrections. And officers may carry forth on the imposition. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So those were the moments after sentencing, sentenced for killing his wife and son. 2 consecutive rest of life sentences was the verdict there of the judge. Gary O'Donoghue is with me, as you can see. Gary, this is an awful, awful case that has garnered just so much attention there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a huge tragedy. 2 people lost their lives in very brutal circumstances, murdered by someone they believed loved them, and there's no detracting from that central fact, but it has had a much wider resonance than that would suggest, particularly because of the prominent nature of this family in that part of the world, particularly because of the circumstances surrounding a whole bunch of other things around the case, other crimes, other potential crimes. I mean, to the extent that this thing has, brought about not just a Netflix series, but an HBO series as well. It is something that has gripped the nation, and it's not over for Alex Murdaugh, despite that life sentence today, those 2 life sentences, because he will face a whole series of other charges for financial crimes. And there are some open investigations going on into things like a death that's been connected to the family back in 2015, and the death of their housekeeper in 2018 who fell down the steps. He claimed the insurance money on her, meant to pass it on to her sons, held on to it, spent it. So there are other investigations like that also going on.
And there were a couple of rather shocking moments during that sentencing, one of which where we were expecting to hear from the defence counsel, and it was actually the defendant himself who spoke, who's just said very simply, "I'm innocent."
Yep, stood up twice, in fact. Said, "I'm innocent, I love my wife and my son," and that was that. We're just waiting at the moment, Lewis, for a press conference by the defence team, and we'll hear, I'm sure, there whether they plan to appeal or not, and that would suggest that they do plan to appeal. And during the whole process of the trial, they made a great deal of what they believed was sort of the botched investigation by the people at the crime scene, and later on the people looking at the digital evidence, etc. So that may be a basis on which they seek leave to appeal in this case, and we'll see what that brings. But this saga is not over by some way, and of course this family that was once absolutely dominant in this small part of South Carolina, the Low Country, as they call it, 4 or 5, 6 counties west of Charleston, the Salt Flats, the sort of hunting country in South Carolina. This whole dynasty has sort of come crashing down. And it's a part of the world where everyone knows everyone, and the reverberations will continue obviously for years to come. But it's something that's fascinated people across this nation. As we know, people are very interested in true crime. They like that a lot. There's access to the courts by cameras here, of course, part of the openness of the system, and all that's come together to make for something that is not just a tragedy, which it is for the two people who died, but a sort of national saga.
Indeed. Okay, Gary, thanks for that.